What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight I wanted to talk about the troubleshooting process that I went through recently on my 1947 exhibit Mystery. I was under a bit of a time crunch because we had a group of people coming over that had never been over before and had never seen or played any of the games. So before they got here, I wanted to make sure they were all working at peak efficiency. So when I got to the exhibit Mystery, I went through standard gameplay and noticed that the 5,000 point score motor turn was not happening. I could hear the relay being energized, but the score motor wasn't turning. And when the score motor doesn't turn, that means that the scores don't step up either. So basically you hear a small thunk and nothing. So I pull the game away from the wall, open the back, examine the relay, and start looking at the relay and seeing if there are any obvious switch gap issues. With a game this old, the metal in the leaf switches is often fatigued and will come apart. But that wasn't the case here. Nor was it a case of the switch being dirty. I inspected the contacts, and since the cleaning that I gave everything when I shopped the game, there was no problem. So that left a more difficult problem. I verified that 1,000 steps were happening, and I verified that 10,000 steps were happening. It was only the 5,000 that was affected. So that means that in this relay, packed with about 8 switches, one of them turns the score motor, which allows the game to increase the score by 5,000 points, and that wasn't happening. So in this case, I didn't look at the schematic, but the schematic would have told me pretty quickly which switch it was. Now in this particular game, because of wire shortages after World War II, there was no guarantee that the wire colors, even if they were not super faded, would still be correct. They substituted with what they had. So sometimes they got a scrap of black wire and they used that instead of blue, or red instead of white, or all kinds of weird things. So I had to inspect it very thoroughly, watching it actuate over and over and over again, and seeing what happened. I verified that the relay was in fact pulling in, so that wasn't the issue. The issue was the lowest switch on the back of this relay was making when you viewed it visually, but the issue was the contact on the bottom of the leaf switch had managed to work itself free and was spinning. When this happens, you don't get good contact, and because of the high voltages that need to pass through, that means that it's not going to send the signal to the score motor consistently, if at all, and it's definitely not going to allow the score motor to turn, even if the signal does get there. So, because I had this group coming over later that afternoon, I did the quick fix. This is not something that will last at all, and the ideal fix would be to actually replace the switch. But because I was in a hurry, I did this little cheat here. So I thought I'd pass this on in case any of you are ever in a similar situation. If you have a contact that's spinning like that, one thing you can do temporarily is to solder the contact to the leaf switch. This won't hold up at all, and if you're using plain old regular solder, it's really not going to hold up. It might last for the evening, but if you're using silver solder, it may last for longer because silver has a higher tensile strength than standard solder. So, with the contact soldered into position, I again actuated the relay over and over and over again and verified that every single time it was in fact turning the score motor the appropriate amount and was stepping up the thousandths stepper all the way up by 5,000 points every single time. So at this point I closed up the game, pushed it back against the wall, and it lasted admirably through the night and all the way up until today, in fact. So, thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. You can also call us on the bingo line, which is 724-246-4671. That's 724-BINGOS-1. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge. And you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.